When Keita opens his eyes one morning, he finds that his crazed sisters, Ako and Riko, are sleeping next to him, making his hand feel numb and heavy. Keita, who has never thought of them as anything but his sisters, is understandably shaken by this. But the two females have only just scratched the surface of their craziness. The moment the two sisters open their eyes, they take turns giving their little brother a passionate, bordering on voyeuristic kiss. Thankfully, Keita is a reasonable man who disapproves of his stepsister's sexual antics. He was the only one in his family who didn't get whacked in the head when they were born. As far as they are concerned, Riko and Ako behavior is fine, despite the fact that it would make him unhappy. His father goes so far as to imply that even his stepmother was fair game. It's almost time for Keita to start high school, and while he'd prefer to attend a school far from his sisters, they seem determined for him to enroll in the same high school as them. Keita has avoided them so far, but the time of the high school exams is quickly approaching. Keita seems to have surrounded himself with ill-minded students at his institution. Keita and his sisters are the subject of frequent strange fantasies from his buddies. Keita simply wants his sisters to quit trying to seduce him and start acting like sisters for once. But no amount of locks on his door can keep his two sisters from sneaking in there every day to try and woo him with their good looks. Keita finally comes to. He bolts back to his alma mater, the only place he knows he can be alone and secure. Unfortunately, he forgets to bring his invitation to the parent-teacher conference with him to the meeting. Since their parents are out of town, Ako and Riko decide to walk to Keita's school on their own to return the newspaper. It seems that Keita's school is full with degenerates who think dirty things. Therefore, Ako and Riko have become fairly famous there. At the moment the two young women enter the gates, a swarm of adoring fans appears to surround them. Keita is livid that they have even arrived at his school, the one place he thought he would finally be able to relax. Keita feels a twinge of guilt after publicly reprimanding the students in front of their fans, only to find out that the audience is actually their parents attending a parent-teacher conference. Despite the fact that the women constantly attempted to entice him by making him kiss them on the lip while sticking out a lot of tongue, and then flashing him repeatedly when he didn't want to be. Holy crap! These gals are treating the guy like garbage. Despite everything, though, they were still his sister. Keita returns to them and expresses regret for his harsh treatment. As they return home, Keita also shares that he has opted to enroll at the same high school as his sister because the school the three intended to go to is extremely exclusive and Keita is not particularly bright. Ako has decided to tutor him. Riko and Ako appear to harbor sibling rivalry toward one another due to their shared brother. To add insult to injury, Keita's stepmother is taking bets on which of Keita, Riko, and Ako will end up getting married. You read that correctly. Instantly messed up people populate this region. Riko tried to assist Keita out, too, but she aced the admission exam by sheer luck and now recognizes that Ako is the superior educator. When Ako first begins instructing, she wears a provocative outfit. Keita already had a hard time focusing on schoolwork because of his preoccupation with his sister's flesh. This makes no sense at all, but it actually occurs. The two decide to stay up reading, and when Keita can't seem to get into it, Ako bares her chest for him. The strategy seems to be working, as Keita is now up studying late into the night. The next day, however, when the first subject's exam finally arrives, their entire plan from last night backfires when Keita spends the entire exam thinking about Ako's chest despite knowing the answers. Ultimately, Keita's exam is a failure, and he shares the news with his sister, who suggests an alternative strategy. The next night during their study session, Ako appears covered with handwritten notes. She concludes that Keita is a pervert who can't focus on his studies without some sleazy motivations which she enjoys, by the way, and so she makes notes for him to use as he studies her body. Let's simply say that the positioning of these notes is excellent. Keita stays up all night studying for the next exam and ends up getting an 85/100. This score is so much outside of his ordinary that his pals can immediately tell that his sisters are giving him a hand, even going so far as to imagine a twisted means by which they achieve their goal. Satisfied with his performance, Keita informs Ako that they may finally abandon their unconventional study techniques upon his return home. Ako, however, chooses to take the exam herself in order to put Keita to the test. In the event that he answers a question incorrectly, she will offer him a passionate kiss. Excuse me. The interrogation begins with Ako asking Keita a particularly challenging question because she is so impressed by his quick thinking and accuracy. As soon as he is unable to explain what he was doing, Ako is subjected to financial retribution. You may want to wash your ears, since what I'm about to say is quite foul. Riko arrives just in time to prevent the brother and sister from going any further after they had begun kissing passionately and are about to take it further. As a result of feeling bad about herself for being unable to help Keita, she had been secretly studying to become a sus-chef, and the results had astounded everyone who had tasted her food. Unfortunately, the awfulness of her cooking did prevent Ako and Keita from committing suicide. Keita credits Ako and her highly effective methods of teaching for the little improvement in his grades that he achieves over the course of a few weeks. As Riko watches enviously, he gives her a hug and expresses his gratitude. I told you before that Keita is the only sane male in the home, but even he is succumbing to the temptations of his sisters. It appears that Alabama is beginning to exert dominance, but Keita keeps his cool and tells his sisters they can no longer kiss without an adult present. There is a new rule that prohibits making out. Ako and Riko are devastated by this news, and despite their best efforts to convince Keita that it's only a way of saying hello, he's not interested in hearing their arguments. Keita's father asks him how school is going as they wash their faces in the morning before school. The elderly man gets fired up, gets a little too excited, and even dreams that maybe he, too, could be a high schooler when Keita tells him about the events and how Ako and Riko were helping him. The old man, what the hell is wrong with you? He encourages Keita to take advantage of the situation by telling him to have fun while stealing more attention from his sisters. But Keita is uncomfortable and tells his dad he doesn't like that type of music. His true passion is sugary treats. Riko may overhear their chats from the adjacent stall. Riko realizes that she has been lagging behind in her attempts to seduce Ako and seizes this moment to make up for lost time. After she's done, she immediately goes to the library to check out a ton of books on baking desserts. Since she has never baked anything like that before, it should come as no surprise that she fails miserably at it now. We can't just expect her to be an instant expert on anything else when she's spent so much time attempting to woo her brother. Riko had already abandoned her house at the end of the day, spending her last cent on a single bar of chocolate. Riko feels disgusted with her own incompetence and the fact that she was only offered a single chocolate bar. Riko sneaks into her stepfather's room in an attempt to steal some cash, but instead she finds a book that may induce severe psychological distress in any young child if they witness their parents reading it. But instead of being influenced by the content of this ostensibly mature book, Riko gets the idea from the poster that she could be the chocolate that Keita enjoys. Then, Riko bursts into Keita's room wearing candy bar lipstick. She figures out a way around the no-kissing rule by telling Keita that he was having candy when they kiss. Now, I have no idea if Keita is naive or has totally embraced the Alabama spirit, but he starts kissing her passionately. When Ako comes home looking for her siblings, she learns that Riko has put up a number of booby traps to prevent her from reaching them in time. As the kissing intensifies in Keita's chamber, Keita eventually loses control and decides to complete the act. Ako rushes in right as he's about to push his sister to bed, saving the day for both of them. Protecting this video from YouTube's censors, Keita realizes he has too many distractions at home to study for his exams, so he spends the next day in the school library. As Ako and Riko get ready for their own day of school at home, they reflect on their own experiences of starting 6th grade. Keita, who was just entering his rebellious adolescence, would often disregard or mock them during this time. Keita, despite this, seems to be the focus of their attention. They were already feeling deeply wronged morally and ethically, and that only grew stronger at the time. Yuzuki, Riko, and Ako's teacher, overhears the sisters talking to their friends about their affections for Keita when they return to school. After hearing what they've been thinking, she feels instantly uneasy and resentful that she ever taught them. She wants to help them and steer them in the right direction, but her concerns for her own sanity are heightened by their wild imaginations. Friends of Ako and Riko wonder if the two never date other guys because of a lack of options. On the contrary, Ako and Riko receive dozens of letters of admiration every day, despite their mistaken belief that all of the male students at their school are perverse and solely interested in sexual encounters. And that's how they treat Keita, right? Keita goes back to the library, but as usual, He can't focus since he's thinking inappropriately about his sisters. His sisters were praying for him at a nearby shrine, so he decided to stop there on the way back. Apparently, the two girls had been making daily pilgrimages to the shrine in the hopes that he would study hard enough to gain admission. Keita joins in on the wishing fun and recalls a younger Keita wishing he could marry both of his sisters. His father had warned him about polygamy back in those days. I guess he does respect the law to some extent. Even while young Keita was furious that he couldn't wed both of his sisters, he may now be grateful that he didn't have such an unrealistic expectation. Keita returns to the present, where he is overcome by sentiment for the past and makes a second wish. His life savings go into the wishing box, and he makes a wish, a deep, dark one. When they return to school, Keita's generate bud can't stop talking about how much they are enjoying themselves with various female students. When Keita tries to impress them with his superiority, they accuse him of mastering the art of seduction and engaging in all sorts of shady behavior at home with his stepsisters. Infuriating Keita is the fact that he hasn't done anything exciting with his sisters in a long time. He says he is only interested in girls with, well, large hearts. As he shuts his eyes to picture such a woman in his life, he inadvertently gropes Miharu, a classmate. Miharu spins around and smacks Keita so hard that he still has red marks on his face when he gets home. Neither of us can believe that this was an accident. When Akko and Riko ask Keita about the slap, he quickly runs off to his room, and they begin to suspect that he has been cheating on them. The girls suspect that he is cheating on them, even though they don't see any logical reason for him to do so, and so they begin to closely monitor his movements. That's it for this part, so let's wait for the next one to see how things go. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel and don't miss out on the other entertaining anime videos. Peace out.